This is a clip from the Cannon podcast. To hear the full episode and get access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.
In terms of midfield, Alex, there's been more rumours about, obviously Rice is done now. You've got Havertz signed as well. Thomas Partey's future remains uncertain. People keep talking about, him going to Saudi Arabia, agreeing personal terms, being open to a move. He wasn't a part of the Arsenal squad that went initially, but I think he's arrived now to the USA. So what do you think in terms of a Partey replacement? Because it looks like he could be going out, even though I don't think he will eventually. If there's a player out there in the market right now, we keep talking about Moses Caicedo, but it looks like he might go to Chelsea instead. Is there a player on the market that stands out for you, not even on the market, but also should sign, let's just say, that is the perfect Thomas Partey replacement?
I had a chat with Clive Palmer earlier, and he put a really good idea in my head, which is this idea of stoppers and starters in midfield. Partey's a starter. He's a Partey starter. He starts attacks. Whereas Rice's qualities and his sort of, perhaps his best superpower, if you want to call it that, is stopping transitions. That was a big problem for us last season. And because of that, as we've seen in the David Ornstein article this week, it was confirmed the entire tactical, I think it was something like the entire tactical remodelling of this thing was around, of our midfield, was around Rice being paired with Havertz. That was what it was about. So we're moving forward. We're evolving as a team. And we're getting an anchor that can be one of our back five rather than contributing loads too much. And I think there is forward potential, let's be clear, with Rice, and that's something that we can talk about with Rice separately. But his primary role in this team will be to give the freedom to really attack with five players. Last season, we kind of had a sort of bridge with Granit Xhaka. I think this season we will see a genuinely fluid front five, and it's going to be amazing to watch. So then we come to replacing Partey. I think Partey, that's his best quality. He's probably the next best quality in terms of a replacement for Declan Rice. And I think it's a simple question. Are Arsenal better on September the 1st, 2023, with 40 million euros in the bank, or with Thomas Partey? And for me, we're better with Thomas Partey in the team. He may be slightly, we might have changed how, we don't necessarily need that super progressive sort of leggy central midfielder anymore who can start attacks and be that guy. We do need someone who can provide a bit more of a balance in there. Now we've gone for a more attacking left fullback or left-sided central midfielder. But now Partey, he's in that position where he's probably someone that I would say we need to keep. Because if you look around the market, like the Caicedo thing is an interesting thing. When you've remodeled your entire midfield for an anchor like Declan Rice, it doesn't make any sense to get Caicedo. Because Caicedo, as much as you might believe he has and this is, again, my personal opinion, George might disagree with me on this, Caicedo's best qualities and where he statistically profiles best is as the alternative to Declan Rice. And that's what I think he was. Clearly, and I think he even said in the Ornstein article, we went after Declan Rice when it seemed that a deal wasn't possible. We went in for Caicedo. That's got to be linked. There's some kind of link there. So I think Caicedo, whatever you think of the player with his forward potential, his best qualities would have come as an anchor. So therefore, I don't see any reason why you get basically a guy who costs 80, 90 million, who I'm not saying is the same player as Declan Rice, but it's coming in to fulfill the same function in our team as the sort of proper anchor that can mean that our tactical remodelling happens. So I don't see Caicedo happening, and maybe you go to Chelsea. But then you come to Partey and you go, he's got to stay. Because for me, what is the point of getting rid of someone who gives you that much quality and depth? He may not be exactly what we need, but what is the point for the sake of £40 million to go and get who? If we're going to go out and get, I don't know, a Tchouaméni, say that was the idea of the fans, I'd go, okay, yeah, fine, but where's he playing? Because we've just spent £105 million on a 6. His best qualities aren't in that 8-10 role. So we've got to find a different way of looking at it. And then you say, okay, so maybe it's best to just have a different profile of 6 for different games. And then you're looking at Thomas Partey again. And you're going, actually, you seem pretty good, mate. So I just don't see it. And I think similar to what we were just talking about, it's shiny new toy syndrome. We all want the next big thing and the next nice toy without ever really thinking, like, actually, does this make sense? Like, I know we want to move on from Partey, but it's a simple question, as I say: are we better off with him, or with £40 million in the bank? I just think it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I mean, the rumours are still there, George. So there could be a possibility he does leave. And if he does leave, Arsenal will have to replace him. So I think if he does leave, Arsenal will definitely sign a midfielder. And if it isn't Caicedo, who would you go to? Would it be a 6-8 type of profile to complement Rice? Is it another 6 to play behind him? I mean, you look at it today, I think Crystal Palace are demanding £70 million for Czech Decore. So the midfield market is very expensive. We've seen it with Declan Rice. What do we do if Thomas Partey does leave?
I kind of posed this question, I think, to Alex a lot earlier on in the summer, where I was like, listen, what is Partey worth? Even at 30-40 million pounds, is that not even worth 10 games a season? Like, when you look at all the hyperbole about what his ability creates, this is a world-class midfielder. And I've had this debate recently in group chats where I think even people tell me right now that Partey doesn't start for the team, even in this current form. And I'm very perplexed. Like, Thomas Partey, for me, starts in this team. And, you know, he is that type of player, that type of quality of player. If he was to leave, mate, it's simple. Like, you have to recruit similar quality. And the list of players that can replace Thomas Partey is a lot smaller than 40 million pounds. And it isn't, you know, much larger than 80, 90 million pounds. And look, I slightly disagree with Alex in terms of the Caicedo stuff. I think when you ask what is he statistically profile as, well, he's going to be Rice because that's the role that, you know, De Zerbi asked him to play. He doesn't ask him to play ahead of the ball. In terms of what I see as the player, I see a very different midfielder for me than Declan Rice. I see somebody that does have a lot of forward potential, that is a lot punchier to markers. I don't see the anchor that I see with a Declan Rice. Ironically, I think that Tchouaméni makes a little bit less sense. He is a lot more of an anchor for me, and I just don't see how, you know, Madrid would allow their one anchor profile to leave. The dreamer in me would love Camavinga, but I say that on purpose, the dreamer in me, because you would be assuming something where, you know, Florentino Perez is going to let his prize child leave Madrid. And I think that the type of person that you replace Thomas Partey with, if you do, has to be a superstar. I'm adamant on that. You cannot replace him with a prospect. If you're not willing to do that, which is fine, it's not easy to do, then don't let him leave. Like, I don't understand this urgency to let him leave unless you can guarantee a Camavinga, a Caicedo level type of player. That, for me, are the only players I could understand allowing that quality to leave your club. And if you're not ready to do that, by the way, Bhavs, I still would recruit another 6'8", even if Thomas Partey stayed. I don't think that position is done. For me, I look at Thomas Partey and I believe that you need to find a progression beyond that. Now, that prospect opens up a little bit more opportunity. I don't think you need to buy a 40, 50 million pound Lavia if Partey stays. I think you can look at somebody like a Leslie Ugochukwu from Rennes, a prospect 20-year-old DM that you can loan back, by the way, while Partey is here collecting minutes, and you've got that bridge plan that is very nice already done right now. You don't have to worry about minutes. He's got the Saliba role. We can loan him out to League One for a season or two, and when he's ready to come in, Partey can leave. And that's a really smooth transition. I see that as something that I would want the club to do if Partey stays. If he leaves, yeah, I'm going to be pretty insistent that it needs to be a superstar because I don't see a scenario that Arsenal are stronger by replacing Thomas Partey with even a Lavia and other people that are, let's say, in the 40 to 50 million pound bracket. And I realize how insane it is to expect a Caicedo and Camavinga, but I think all that does is reinforce how highly I value Thomas Partey. And I don't think that fans are ready for this conversation yet. I think there are more instances of Thomas Partey and Declan Rice playing together than there aren't, than people tend to realize. People keep isolating it to the big 6 games. I really think that's a duo and a pivot that would thrive in the Premier League across the board. And people think it's defensive. Guys, if you allow Thomas Partey to be a little bit more higher up the pitch and be vertical, something we don't like in his current role, imagine what he could do with a little bit more freedom. I've always felt that Thomas Partey has a lot to offer in terms of progressing the ball, getting it into that zone 14, that top of the box in a more freer role. We haven't seen it because we haven't asked him to do it. But he is that nature. He is that person to be punchy between the lines. So yeah, I expect the superstar to be replaced if we do go down that role. But otherwise, happy to keep him. But I would like a prospect, and it would always be a 6'8". I think we are done with the 8 conversation, in my opinion. I see too many people there.
Thanks for checking out the Cannon Podcast. To get full episodes and access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.